Hey everyone, happy Friday to you. Hope things are going well as we wrap up our first week of e-learning. I know it's been a change for everyone, but so far so good. I know you're working hard, you're keeping your grades up, and I certainly appreciate it. So I'm going to get right into it. We continue with some concepts that we're reviewing. On today's worksheet, we're going to talk about mean, median, and mode. We're going to do a couple of problems that deal with three-dimensional items. Think of a box. We would call that a rectangular prism. That's the mathematical term, but think of it as any box or book or anything like that as a rectangular prism. We're going to talk about surface area and volume, and then we're going to review order of operations. Okay, so three things: mean, median, mode, and then the surface area and volume of rectangular prisms, and order of operations. First of all, let's talk about mean, median, and mode. These are three ways of understanding groups of numbers, right? So let's say we're talking about test scores in a classroom, or we're talking about different paychecks that maybe a group of people make. There are three ways that we can talk about it. The mean is the average, okay? The mean is the average. The median is the point at which half the numbers are above and half the numbers are below. And the mode is the most common number to be found. So let's look at a simple example here. Let's say that we have numbers 2, 3, 4, 4, and 6, okay? So let's say that this group of 5 numbers represents some bit of information. We want to understand more fully what these 5 numbers tell us. So again, when we're trying to, in the real world, when we're trying to understand business trends, when we're trying to understand how to make a decision based on what's the most profitable, we need to understand what numbers are telling us. And so these are three ways that we can analyze numbers and figure what they're talking about. So the mean is the average. Now to calculate the average, I'm going to add all the numbers up, and I'm going to divide that sum by the number of numbers that I have. So in this particular case, I have 5 numbers. I'm going to take the sum of those 5 numbers. I'm going to divide them by 5. If I had 6 numbers, I would divide that final sum by 6. Let's do this. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 4 is 14, plus 3 is 17, plus 2 is 19. So my sum is 19. To find the mean, I'm going to divide my sum, 19, by the total number of participants. So I have 5 goes into 19, 3, 4, 0, 8. So my mean is 3.8. Now, my median, I want to look at the place where the number where half the numbers are above and half the numbers are below. I have to listen to this. I have to organize them in the order from least to greatest or greatest to least. In other words, I have to get them in numerical order before I can identify the median. Hint, most of the time when you're handed a group of numbers, say for instance you're taking the SAT and they say find the median, they're going to give you a bunch of numbers and they're all in scrambled order. You have to put them in numerical order. In other words, like you're counting smallest number all the way up to greatest number, or greatest number down to, it doesn't matter which one. You have to put them in numerical order though, and that way you can find the middle. Now, in this particular case, because we have an odd number of numbers, the number in the middle is our median, right? So we have 2 above it, 2 below it, so the number in the middle is our median. What if we'd had 6 numbers? In other words, what if there wasn't a number that was just real easy to find right there in the middle? Then what we would do is we would take the number. Let's say that there were 3 above and 3 below. You would take those 2 numbers that are closest to the middle, right? So the 2 that are touching the middle, neither one of them is exactly the middle, but they're right there, and you would find the average of those. So let's say that we had 1, 2, 3, and 4. there's an even number. What I would do is here's my middle point. I'm going to add those two and divide by 2. I'm going to find the average of those two. 2.5 would become my median of this little example here. Okay. In this case, our median is this number in the middle. It's 4. Because there are 2 4s and no other number that is doubled up, the mode of this is also 4. So the mode is the answer that shows up most frequently. Okay, that's mean, median, and mode. Let's talk about then finding the surface area and volume of, say, a box or a book, something like that. So let's find a rectangular prism. It can look like this. So it's 3-dimensional, okay? 3-dimensional. Now, if we're talking about surface area, we're talking about, to talk about surface area, I always think of it as like Christmas wrapping paper. Let's say this is a box. Inside is a super expensive gift for my wife, and I want to know how much paper is it going to take to cover this box perfectly, okay? Not doubled up, not wrapped around and around, just one cover, but I want to cover the box completely, right? That's surface area. So notice that if I have to calculate the surface area, I have 6 sides to this particular prism, right? So here's how we talk about it. We're going to call this the length. We're going to call this the height. And we're going to call this measurement here the width, right? Now, if I'm going to talk about surface area, I have to know what each of those measurements would happen to be. Let's take some easy numbers. Let's say that my length is 4, my height is 2, and my width is 3, okay? So we're looking at a small box, and usually, let's say that this is in inches. It's a very small box, okay? I have 6 different sides. I have a top and a bottom that are identical. I have this front edge and its opposite edge. They're identical. I have this end part and it's identical. Okay, so if you'll look at each of these measurements, I'm going to measure the 3 sides that are visible here. I'm going to double each one because on the opposite side of this box or this rectangular prism, there are 3 sides I can't see. I can't see the bottom, I can't see the top, I can't see the back, I can see the front, and I can't see the other side. So whatever it is that I calculate, I'm going to double, right? So let's talk about this side right here. This side, this front side, to find the surface area, this is 2-dimensional, okay? So the surface area is 2-dimensional because it's flat. I have my length times my height. So side number 1 is length times height, okay? And because there's another side that's identical to it on the other side, I'm going to double it, right? Because I'm really counting this side plus this other side over here I can't see. So length times height times 2. My length is 4. My height is 2. And I'm doubling for 2. So 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. All right? So if we're putting this in inches, since this is an inch and this is an inch, that's not. It's just 2. We would have inches times inches, which is inches squared. Okay, so this side plus the other side, that's 16 inches squared. Now I have to set that aside because I still have to calculate this side and its match. Okay, so let's talk about this side and its match, and I'll cover it in here. It's this one. Notice that the dimensions here, it's got a height and then it shares the width. And again, I'll be doubling it because there are 2 of these. So my height is 2 inches. My width is 3 inches, and then times 2 because I'm doubling it for the two sides. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6, times 2 is 12. Again, that's inches squared. All right, now let's talk about the top and the bottom. Let's measure that. Okay, it has the shared length times the width. So the length is 4 inches. The width is 3 inches. And of course, I'm doubling it because we can't see the bottom, but we're going to go ahead and calculate it as well. So 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24 inches squared. Now, to get my total surface area, I have to add these three numbers, okay? To add these three numbers. So 16 plus 12 is 28, plus 4, 28 and 24 would be 52. Okay? So if I add those 6 sides together, okay, my 3 sides doubled for the 3 that I can't see, my total surface area is 52 inches squared, okay? So let's think about this. Again, let's talk about the difference between an inch and a square inch. If I'm measuring a length, in other words, from one end of this marker to the other, that's one dimension. I'm just measuring length, 1. So my answer would be in inches. However, if I'm measuring something flat, like today's homework assignment, and I'm measuring both the length and I'm multiplying it by the width, in other words, there's 2 dimensions, my answer is going to be in inches squared, okay? This is 8 inches by 11 inches, so the total area of this sheet is about 88 inches squared because I'm multiplying an inch times an inch, and an inch times an inch is an inch squared, 88 inches. However, if I'm multiplying 3 dimensions, like my Bible, okay, my Bible is a rectangular prism. I am measuring the length, that's 1 dimension, the height, that's another dimension, and the width, that's a 3rd dimension. So if I'm measuring 3 dimensions, my answer is cubed, okay? When we're talking about surface area, because we're only measuring 2 dimensions at a time, each of those is squared. So our final answer is squared. You know what's not squared? It's volume. Volume is not squared. So volume, if you think about surface area as how much there is on the outside, volume is how much is on the inside. It's 3 dimensions. It's length times width times height. It's all 3 of them multiplied together. So if I'm going to talk about the area, of a rectangular prism, I'm going to take the length and I multiply the width and multiply the height, and that's going to give me the area. Let me take this part off. This particular rectangular prism we have up here has a length of 4 inches, a height of 2 inches, a width of 3 inches. So my area is going to equal length times width times height. In this particular case, area equals 4 times 2 times 3. So my area equals 4 times 2, which is 8. Times 3, which is 24, so 24 inches cubed. My answer is going to be in cubic inches, okay? So that is area. I'm sorry, volume. If I'm talking about the, and look what I did. I did that the wrong way the whole stinking time. I'm so sorry, okay? Luck. Volume. Volume equals length times width times height. All right, I'm so totally sorry, and you cannot talk about this to anybody. It's just between us. All right, I made a terrible mistake. Volume is how much space is inside a 3-dimensional item. See, if we'd been in class, one of you would have caught, because it's a really stupid mistake, one of you I'm looking at you, I know who you are, would have said, Brother Akers, I think you meant to say volume. And I would have said, you are right. But anyhow, volume, length times width times height. And that's pretty much the way it goes. All right, let's look at our last thing, a little review of order of operations. Where'd you go? Stay with me now. All right. So order of operations. Remember that we've got our little mnemonic device. PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. What does that stand for? First of all, we're going to take care of things that are in parentheses, okay? First thing we're going to do is we're going to take care of things that are in parentheses. Then we're going to take care of exponents, okay? Now, what it means to take care of something that's in parentheses is we look at the parentheses and we say, I'm going to solve this as if it were its own problem, okay? So I look at the parentheses and I say, whatever's in there, I'm going to follow order of operations inside my parentheses, but I'm going to solve my parentheses first, okay? Then exponents. Then we have multiplication and division, and we have addition and subtraction. I'm going to show you that sometimes these orders of operations, you got to know a few little exceptions. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Let's say we have an order of operation that looks like this. 8 minus 4, okay, over 10 minus 3. Now, this is a fraction, right? You've got an expression on top, an expression on the bottom. So our numerator is 8 minus 4. Our denominator is 10 minus 3. Listen carefully. We're going to pretend every time that we are dealing with an expression that is the numerator or denominator of a fraction, we're going to pretend like every single time there is a parentheses around that expression. Do they put the parentheses on there for you? No, they don't. They don't at all. But if they did, it would make a lot more sense. So we're going to pretend. You see this guy right here? Do you want to divide 8 minus 4 divided by 10 minus 3? No, you don't want to do that. You want to solve 8 minus 4 first, then you want to solve 10 minus 3 second, then you want to deal with whatever the remainder might be. Okay, so let's look at this. Here's what I would do. I would pretend like my numerator and denominator both have parentheses around them. Easy, right? Now what do? 8 minus 4 is 4. 10 minus 3 is 7. That's a simplified fraction. If they wanted my answer in a decimal, I could say 4 divided by 7. I could give them to in a decimal, but who wants decimals, right? Decimals. Yeah. All right. So let's do a hard one. And in fact, because not everybody is smart, I'm going to do one that is directly from the homework assignment. So you know how I can tell who's smart and who's not smart? The smart ones are the ones who's watching the video. The not smart ones are like, I'm not going to watch the video. So here's what I want you to do, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to watch the video every time because I'm going to start putting little secrets, little codes in my videos. And you'll need to get that code and put it in the on the worksheet, and that way I know that you actually watch the video. I'm going to do one. This is directly from the homework, so if you're following along, this is one that you won't have to do for yourself. All right, let me go ahead and erase this. Couple of things. First of all, we've got parentheses, so we know right away got to deal with the parentheses. Then we've got brackets, and brackets are like a parentheses around parentheses, right? So in other words, we're going to deal with the parentheses that's in the middle first. We're going to deal with the inside parentheses, then we'll deal with the outside parentheses, which is the bracket, and then we'll get to whatever else is left. So I'm going to look at 6 6 cubed minus 9 as if it were the only problem that I was facing today. Okay, that's it. So what is 6 cubed? Well, that's 6 times 6 times 6, right? So 6 times 6 is 36. And then 36 times 6, I'm going to do this on the top of my head, should be 198, okay? Hold on. I just said that wrong because I did the last one by 3. So let's do 6 times 6 is 36 times 6 is 6. Carry the 3, 18, 216. Whew, it's a good thing that I didn't just settle for what I'd done on the top of my head. Always check your math. All right. So this is, I'm going to rewrite it. 216 minus 9. Because inside my parentheses, I took care of my exponent first. Divided by 23. Multiplied by 4. Notice I'm not trying to do multiple steps at the same time. That's a way to fail. Okay? You want your life to head in the wrong direction, try to do multiple steps at the same time. It will always lead you astray. Do it the right way. All right, still have this parentheses to take care of. That gives me here 216 minus 9, which would be 207. Now I can get rid of my parentheses, divided by 23 times 4. Isn't this great? I'm going to have to, I'm going to work my problem out here. 23 times 7. What in the world is that? I should have picked an easy one, shouldn't I? So I'm going to say 207 divided by 23. Okay. 5, 10. I'm just guessing. I'm just going to work through this how I would. I'm going to guess 9. Let's see what happens if I multiply this by 9. 9 times 23, I've got a 7 here. That's a good sign. 8 to 207. Yep, there we go. So 207 divided by 23 is 9. Times 4. My answer is 36. Okay? Parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication or division, whichever one comes first. Addition or subtraction, whichever one comes first. Reading from left to right. And if you have a fraction, a numerator and a denominator, take care of those first as if they had parentheses around them, which they usually won't. But y'all have pretty good imagination, so I don't think you're going to have any problem with that. Anyhow, I hope you're doing okay. I love you guys. This video is a little longer than I expected it to be, and I have talked fast. But peace. Finish this, and you got the weekend off, all right? See ya.